kick things off, we're starting out with North Carolina. Tar Heels got a 1 seed in last year's NCAA tournament before losing to Alabama in the Sweet 16. Returned basically the entire backcourt from that team, which is what I think the big selling point is for this Tar Heels team. You have RJ Davis, preseason All-American, one of the favorites, if not the absolute favorite for ACC Player of the Year. Definitely one Duke player who will have something to say about that, as well as potentially a Wake Forest player as well. But we'll get to those guys. You also bring back Elliot Cadeau, good playmaker, has never really been a shooter, so we'll see if that's something that he's added to his game. Seth Trimble's back. Yadian Jackson, who's a 5-star. Alex, give me just some quick thoughts on North Carolina, what you expect from these guys this season.
Fully expect them to be contending once again for a regular season title in the ACC and obviously beyond. It's North Carolina. It's a blue blood. Much like Duke, you have Final Four expectations every year. When you return a first-team All-American, there's no reason to expect anything less. I think the big question mark around this roster is just obviously the front court. Like you lose Armando Bacot, who is obviously so central to success over the last couple of seasons, but beyond that, even last year, just his drop coverage defensively, how much that – I can't remember forgive me for not remembering the actual rim pressure statistics, but I believe it was like top 25 nationally in terms of just making opponents' life hell at the rim. Plus you lose Ingram and Cormac Ryan on the wings. So it's a lot to replace. Just having gone to school with Cade Tyson, big personal fan of his. I know he can shoot the cover off of basketball, so that'll provide some spacing even when – let's see if – the big question besides the front court, if Jalen Washington or Van Allen Lubin can kind of step into that Bacot-size hole down there is if Cadeau can't be punked anymore on the offensive end, can't have Grant Nelson just sitting in the paint like he did in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Cadeau hit one out of his 1-3. He was a perfect 100% in their team scrimmage from a couple days ago at the time of this recording. So
on pace to be the best shooter in the country.
Yeah, on pace to be the best shooter in the country. Hasn't missed in a game. I don't know. That's probably the best backcourt duo in the country. And then I'm really high on Drake Powell too. I just think his defensive upside and what he kind of brings to that squad will probably unlock something. It just what do you think of Lubin and Washington is kind of the big thing for me.
Yeah, Bacot, just so tough to replace. And a guy who was really solid last year was kind of taken for granted a little bit, I think, just because a lot of the focus was on the backcourt. But, you bring back Jalen Washington, who you mentioned, who has always kind of shown these flashes of being a guy. It's just like, can he fully step into that this season? And then you have Van Allen Lubin from Vanderbilt. He averaged 12 and 6 for a bad Vanderbilt team. He'll get minutes. It's just a question of are those going to be quality minutes for them? Yeah, the spacing definitely got, I think, significantly worse with the losses of Ingram and Ryan. Both those guys shot over 35% from three last year. And Ingram's a guy who, he struggled his last year at Stanford, but then kind of got his shot back and was such an important piece, not only with the shooting, but also with the rebounding as well. I think he averaged in the ballpark of 7 or 8 rebounds a game, which was, really important for this team. He just did so many things for them. But yeah, I like Cade Tyson a lot. I like the Cade Tyson shout. He shot 45% from three for Belmont last year. And he kind of slides into that, into the Brady Manick role from a couple seasons ago. That's kind of my thoughts on what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, kind of. Obviously they're different body types and different players, but I could see it if they kind of go for a more small ball 4 role. I do have some defensive question marks for him guarding bigger wings in the conference. But again, he's just going to be, you can't leave him offensively. And when he's the, tertiary option on that offense, that's even better because he doesn't. I mean, he's not going to have to force a ton.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, this team's top 7 is really good. It just kind of comes down to if Jalen Washington can be a solid to good, both defensive presence and maybe providing something more, some flashing or some. He's flashed some passing chops, so I'm excited to see if those kind of develop throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, what do you expect from Ian Jackson?
I don't really know. He strikes me as such a volume scorer that he needs to have the ball in his hands, but he's so good in transition, and with Hubert Davis clearly wanting this team to play so fast, you have to imagine he's just kind of going to have the opportunities to get downhill and get to the rim whenever he wants. The question mark's always kind of been, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in high school it was always the consistency of his 3-point shot. And so I think if that's there, this unlocks a whole new world for Hubert Davis. But I don't know. I think if I was rolling out Carolina's starting lineup for November 4th, I think I'd go Cadeau, Davis, Drake Powell, Tyson, and then probably Washington. I think that's probably your best like mix of, because I think RJ Davis gives you the scoring that Jackson can provide, and so I think if you can do him as kind of that microwave scorer off the bench, but maybe that's probably pigeonholing him too much given his talent.
Yeah, it is tough because there is kind of a log jam in the backcourt just with all the guys that they brought back. Would have been really nice if they had a 5-star freshman coming in to play in the front court. And that is like, I think the big questions are how much of a step back does like the 3-point shooting take this year with the losses of Ingram and Cormac Ryan? And then, like, what are you getting from the front court? And it might not even be readily apparent, like how rough the front court is, because just looking throughout this conference, I don't think there are going to be a lot of front courts that like really punish North Carolina for any weaknesses down low. So it might not even be something that we're totally aware of in ACC play. It might be something that we see in non-conference play or later on in the tournament, but definitely something to watch for. On the strength of the backcourt alone, should be one of the best teams in the ACC. Should be like a lock for the top 3 at least, and could definitely win the conference once again this season. But that front court could be brutal. We'll have to see.